Hey, what's happening everyone? SirJames from Gamerfuzion.com, and since things are a little bit slow on the channel, I thought I could go ahead and give you guys a first impression on the Battlefield 1 open beta. I've actually been playing this a day early from the early access portion, but before I talk about my overall gameplay experience, just kind of a little bit of a background history, if you will. For me, I've always been a big fan of the Battlefield titles because I feel like if I wanted to do something in general or try something that's kind of out of the ordinary, I'm actually able to do that in the game. Like, for example, some of the past experiences, like, hey, what if I want to drive a Jeep filled with C4 into a tank and blow that sucker up? I have that option to do so, so I like that sense of freedom. And I'm not really going to do big comparisons between this and Call of Duty because, honestly, those are two completely different games. Call of Duty is more of an arcade style, while Battlefield is kind of a little bit more an open area, if you will. But for me, I've been a big fan of the Battlefield games for the longest time, and in regards to first-person shooters in general, I've always missed the old school games, you know, like when stuff took place during like World War II or the Pacific area and all these other things, because now first-person shooters for the most part tend to be either modern days or futuristic, and a lot of us fans have been wanting some of the old school stuff back in. When I heard that the next Battlefield game, in this case Battlefield 1, which is still an interesting title to go with, I heard that's going to be taking place in World War I. I got super excited because now we're going to have something more of an old school era, of course, with the amazing Frostbite engine and all that fun stuff. So I got super excited to see that and hear that. I was kind of hoping for a Bad Company 3, whether or not that may happen in the future, or maybe a Bad Company 1 and 2 remastered. I think will be pretty cool, but still, seeing that we're going to be getting a Battlefield game based on World War I is super exciting. Now, since I've been playing this during the early access, I've been having a lot of fun with this title in terms of the weapons and stuff like that, and this still holds true for all the years. I still can't never fly the aircrafts in these games. I don't know why, or maybe it's the control scheme I have set up, but I can never fly or get used to flying the aircrafts in the game. When it comes to like their standard ground vehicles, no problem. Aircrafts, I could fly them for a short distance, but other than that, I always end up crashing, or I just jump right out of them to get to a destination from point A to point B a lot faster. So I guess we'll go ahead and start with my experience with the vehicle-based items in this case, starting with horseback. Of course, you have access to horses in this game, and I really like the whole concept of this because you have the cavalry units back in the day. And the way this works is that when you hop onto the horse is that, of course, you're still going to be a little bit exposed, so you have a chance to getting shot off your horse, or you have the chance of your horse getting shot down. In this case, hopefully PETA doesn't hear about that, because God, who knows what they may do to Battlefield. But anyways, you have, you know, you're still vulnerable in a different way, but of course you're still able to do combat on there. One of my personal favorites is since I've been playing this mostly on the PC, because that's the version I'm going to be going with, by pressing T, you actually pull out your saber, your sword in this case. So if you happen to be, you know, going along like an enemy and stuff like that, you could either run them down with your horse, or you could basically slash them and have an instant kill right off the bat. My personal favorite experience was when you are going one-on-one with another enemy horseback rider. So you basically run up alongside them and slash them off, or if you want to go for a cheaper route and have no honor, you could just basically pull out your gun and kind of shoot them off that way. So you have a couple different ways to deal with enemies, but the horseback mechanic was actually a lot of fun. I also jumped into a couple different tank types, mostly like troop transports, but these tanks are like heavily armored, and they basically fill up to a lot of infantry units where you basically kind of have guns all the way around the damn thing. So you have like guns off the side, you have guns behind you, you have the guns on the very front, and basically, you know, you're the driver and you're kind of hoping for your teammates to take care of whatever targets or threats come your way. So it gets pretty crazy. Now, I've also dealt with this smaller tank. I can't remember the names on the top of my head, so I do apologize, but eventually when I get more and more into it, I will remember them. But there's also this smaller tank that has a major cannon that is able to do more damage compared to this little troop transport, if you will. And of course a couple of Jeeps here and there, but the vehicles felt very fresh. I really like the view aspect when you're in them, because, you know, depending on the vehicle at hand, you may not have a lot of viewpoints. You may not be able to see a wide area of the battle. You only have like a smaller window to kind of look through. Of course, you could always change the camera angles to kind of fix that, but just in a first person view, it felt pretty much right in my opinion. I may have never been in the vehicles in real life, but it felt just right. Now, of course, focused on infantry-based combat, which is what I spend the majority of my time, especially with past Battlefield games. I don't really spend too much in the vehicle aspect. The infantry-based combat felt great, and I felt like each of the different classes were unique, and you kind of have to correspond and pick what class will fit that particular situation. It's unlike the other Battlefield games where you could easily pick one class, and one class will be good for every single situation. This, you have to strictly pick what's going to benefit that particular moment. So of course you have your basic, infantry units who are hooked up with the machine guns. Of course they have a special type of grenades to handle some of the more light-based vehicles, and of course you also have your snipers, and of course you have different things to kind of correspond with that. And of course you also have your heavy machine gunner, which is highly effective, and I'm kind of surprised how accurate the weapons seem to be. I mean, again, since this is a beta, there's a chance that a lot of these things are going to be tweaked and kind of balanced before the final game gets released, but it's just kind of nice to see how things went around. The class that I tend to be using the most is basically the medic-based class, because I don't know, for whatever reason, I like playing as the medic, because I feel like I'm an important player on the field. If I happen to see a down teammate and the area is cleared, I could revive them, or heck, maybe we just took some heavy damage from an enemy tank or something like that. Heal up my team, and so we could progress and maybe flank the enemy in some way. But of course, also the weapon that the medic tend to use is a little bit more accurate. I mean, not as strong for close range combat, but for mid to long range combat, it definitely works out, especially when I did the upgrade. In this case, when I leveled up, I upgraded the weapon, which gave me more of an increased accuracy, which basically increased the scope and the stability of the weapon, which I found to be highly effective. Now, one of the main things that I liked, especially in comparison to the console and PC version, is the sandstorm that took place during mid-combat. On the console version, it didn't seem as dense and thick, and I was still able to see enemies perfectly fine. However, when it came to the PC version and stuff like that, having everything all maxed, and just the dust clouds, is like my area of view was definitely blocked. Like, for the most part, I had to get really close to something to kind of see exactly what is going on, so I could only see just a few feet in front of me, not as much as I was able to on the console version of the game. But I mean, overall, the combat experience was really enjoyable, and it really gave me that old school vibe. I kind of had like a Bad Company feel to it. I mean, not 100%, all the way, but I did definitely have a Battlefield Bad Company feel to it, and maybe some other old school shooters as well. And that's the feeling that I missed for the longest time, and I finally got that back when it came to this one. This is probably one of the more refreshing games that I played in a few years. I mean, aside from like all these other great games that have been out there, just in terms of a first-person shooter, this is probably the most refreshing experience that I've had in about a couple years from now, and I'm really looking forward to it. And if you guys haven't checked out the beta, highly recommend so. I don't know when the beta is going to end. I know there is this thing that if you happen to be playing the beta, if you reach level 15, and if you play about 4 different days, you actually get a unique dog tag variant, which is something that they've always done for each beta. Sometimes it's just by logging into the beta, or you may have to do another task. So this one is by reaching rank 15 and playing 4 different days, you'll get a unique dog tag variant. But this is a game that I'm definitely going to be picking up on the PC side. Of course, I may not be able to display it on the highest setting, but still being able to run up with the GTX 980 on basically ultra settings, and of course 1080p still works out just fine. But anyways, highly recommend you guys check out the game. I just want to kind of share with you guys my thoughts and opinions on it. Overall, I'm having a ton of fun. I can't wait for this to eventually come out, because knowing me, I'm going to be putting a lot of hours into this. So let me know what you guys think. If you guys played it, let me know in the comment section down below. But until then, I am SirJames from Gamerfuzion.com, where we empower your gaming.